Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Simply Colorful FiberCast. Today's date is March 1st, 2019. My name is Lynn Marquidon, and I'm your host. Welcome. Grab a project, and we're going to sew together tonight. I already have some things to share with you. They're Dear Jane related, and look behind me. We're going to do a month's worth of Dear Jane quilting. So let me show you what has been sent in already. If you're working on Dear Jane, use this month as a way to crank on some of your blocks. Sue Norton sent this in. I don't know if you can see this, but these are her. I want to read to you what she says about these. She says, you can share these row L blocks on FiberCast if you want. She says, I'm excited for a month of Dear Jane. It's been a long 4-year journey. So Sue started this 4 years ago. So far, filled with happiness and some sorrow, but I wouldn't have changed a thing. Dear Jane is my comfort always, she says. Next week, maybe I'll have a picture of Mother Jane, what I have rowed together. And knowing Sue, she will have most of her Dear Jane rowed together. So thank you, Sue, for sending that in. I also, Pat is cranking on her Dear Jane, and she sent us a way to put them together one by one and quilt them. And I'll share that video in a minute. But before we go any further, behind me, and you can't even see row A, is what I have so far. Some of my blocks aren't put out because I have so few per row. But what I have, oh, and you know what? I was going to start my overhead camera, but I'll start it in a minute. Basically, I have I have all of A, B, C. I have one more left in D. I've done E. And then, remember last week or the week before when I was at the retreat, I started from the bottom and I did M, L, except for one. And then I did some of, can't even spell backwards, but that one. So I'm making some progress. I've done some of the triangles. Still a long way to go, but that's why we have a whole month of March to go. Okay, let me take a minute. So grab your project. Thanks for joining me. Let's see what we can do in 60 minutes. And before we go any further, I'm going to join our friends on Facebook Live. And if you want to watch both screens, go to the Simply Colorful page on Facebook. Follow the page. Make sure you follow it and like it. And then you will watch the live view of, I'm going to put the camera up here, and you'll see what I'm working on more closely. And there is a way to put a split screen or show both screens on your iPad. And it's just a little bit of a way to see more closely what I'm working on, because I know you're far away from me. Okay, so give me 1 second. I'm going to start this. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another FiberCast. Today's date is March 1st, 2019. My name's Lynn Marquidon. I'm your host, and I'm going to flip the camera so that you can see what I'm working on up close. We have a whole month of Dear Jane blocks to make. So let's get started. Grab a project and come sew with me. I had to figure out how to do it. Okay, here we go. So as I put this up, I've already started the YouTube channel, and we have viewers that way. I really have to possibly get a better way to do this. Okay, so I think for now you can see the front of my Dear Jane book. And my rulers, I pulled out my rulers, my square and my triangle. These are great. We're getting to the point where I'm going to be needing these. And I actually have had a learning. I'm going to back up a little bit. What you have to do, if you want to make a Dear Jane quilt to the exact specifications of this one that Jane Stickle made in 1863, you have to put thin pieces of the white in between the squares, so that the the triangles fit right. And I'll read you what she says, Brenda Papadakis says in this book about that, because it's pretty important. And I think I'm going to do it a slightly different way. So Brenda says, the block and triangle patterns in this book are shown full size as they appear in the quilt, meaning Jane's quilt. This means that when they are the finished size, you will need to add a seam allowance of a scant 1/4 inch. If you decide to make your quilt like Jane's with all the blocks and border triangles, you need to make 2 additions to ensure that everything comes together accurately. First, we have to put a 1/2 inch sashing between the inside blocks and rows. And then second, we have to add a 1/4 inch edge all the way around the outside of the assembled squares. And then the triangles will fit. And I'll pull one of these down. So for example, on this one, I have put, I put that 1/2 inch sashing on 2 sides. I've started to do that. This one, I've not yet, but I will. And then I started to sew all of these into a row. I think what I'm going to do is hold off sewing them in a row for now and get them all to this point and then square them up to the exact right size. I'll have to do some math and some real calculation and square them up and then put them together. I think I'll end up with a flatter quilt as opposed to right now. Let me show you. Well, up at the top, I've already sewn some together, and I think I need to get a little bit of puckering. I'm going to leave it as is, but that's my plan, is once I get every square to this stage, which measures, let's pull out. See, now this one, I remember measuring this, and it's just barely the right size. But if you really squish it down, nope, see, that's too, I hope you can see that. This one needs a border even before I put the other border on. Can you imagine the seams on that? So this one should measure 4.5. No, what is this, 5? It should measure 5 undone, and it's only measuring 4 3/4. Huh. So that's what I mean. I'm going to put slightly bigger of these on and then cut them all down to the right size and then sew them together. But I digress. So if you don't, that's where having these are going to be useful in the future. We're starting to get them. What I thought I would do today is F2 kaleidoscope. And this one is not a paper piecing per se. I'm going to use templates. Let me put these back. There we go. And if you're working along, I know Sue, you've already done it. Pat, you've already done it. Annie, probably you're done too. But isn't this a fun journey? So F2 kaleidoscope. Here's what it looks like. They did it in red and white. I'm going to do it in, oh, and Karen Sweich, I have her pictures of her Dear Jane. She has just embarked on her road to Dear Jane. In fact, one thing to notice, if you have the Dear Jane software and you print out this key block, which comes with templates that I've already cut out, make sure that you know that this is at a 77/100th size. This is not the actual size. It's shrunk down. But see how it's smaller than this? So I've cut out the templates, and I think what I'm going to do is do a combination of this sandy yellowy, because if you'll notice, I have a beach theme going here. I want it to be blues and greens and sandy ochre yellowy, and this. So let's see if we can replicate that look using this. Okay, and then I am hoping to do F4 too, the old windmill block. You can get on a roll. I tell you, I got a lot of blocks done at the retreat, and it was great fun. So let's see, I have to look at this. Okay, I need 4 of these G's in this brown. Actually, it may take us the full 60 minutes to do 1 block, which is usually about what we do, isn't it? Becca out there wrote in down in Georgia. Hi, Becca, if you're out there. Becca took a class at her local store, and she made the pineapple block. I have to show it to you. I think maybe you use the Creative Grids ruler. I'm not sure. I like the slight variation in this fabric here. Slightly variated. This is probably would be a better one to do hand sewing if I really wanted accuracy. But as we know, I am not going for accuracy at this juncture. Okay, now I need E and D. So D and E. I also need several of these. What am I going to do? Am I going to wait and do that? Okay, that just seems like too much work to me. What we're going to do. Okay, we're going to leave that there. Now let's do our big white pieces. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? So this is going to be yellow, 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 yellow. Sometimes this really helps save you from making a mistake. So wherever I have blue, that's going to be yellow. So I just did all, you see this? All 4 of those. You can see that. Okay, let's do the F's. I have all different off-white fabrics. Oh, that one has some. Okay, is it the right or wrong? That's the right. Oh, and you know what? I'm not even going to draw it out 4 times. Watch this. I'm going to fold my fabric and cut multiples at the same time. Okay. Now let's try and fold that over such that that is not the best way to do it, but that's my way. Ooh, scissors aren't good. So once I cut this out, actually, I'm going to pin it. Make sure my iron is getting ready. So March 1st. And here in the Northeast, we may be having some snow. We had some snow earlier this week. It was only a coating. So there are 4 of those. Let's put that down there. But it was enough, and I just learned this tonight. Bob actually snow blowed our driveway, which had been a mess. It's got ice and mud and some divots in it. We really are going to have to fix that in the spring. But when it snowed earlier this week, Bob went out and used the snow blower and took just the 3 or 4 inches of snow off. And it was one of those borderline things. Sometimes if he hears the neighbor snow blowing, he gets all competitive and thinks, oh, he has to get out there and snow blow. But this time we didn't even hear the neighbor, but still Bob was out there. So come to find out, bless his heart, he was doing it because he thought that he had band practice tonight, and he was doing it for Mike, who's in his band, who had a bad back, and Bob wanted to make sure that he didn't slip on the ice. So I thought that was very kind. Okay, 3, 1 more. I hope you all are staying warm. We had a marketing meeting in Boston this week for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And a lot of people came in from Texas. And it was cold here in Boston. I felt so bad. Some of them didn't even have winter coats. But the way that they have it at the Heinz Convention Center and Copley Plaza and the Westin there, they've got everything is connected and you can walk through the mall and the buildings. So it was very easy to navigate. Okay, so we have 4 of these. This is really going to be like a kaleidoscope, right? And what I am tempted to do now, how are we going to do this to make sure you're seeing that? Oh, before I go any further, I want to show you Becca's pineapple square, and I also want to show you what Pat did and Karen did. And then I'll go look at your comments on Facebook Live. Oh, Colleen and Marion, hi. Becky, hi. Okay. Oh, Maggie. Hi, Maggie up in New Hampshire. She says, I'm happy to catch up with you tonight. She says, I've spent the last 3 weeks up in Maine with my daughter and son-in-law. Sweet baby James was born on the 21st of February. All are doing well, and I came home today a little earlier than planned to beat the nor'easter coming Sunday night into Monday. She says, I'm loving that you're working on Dear Jane. Happy sewing, Maggie. And look at this picture. Sweet baby James. Aw, he's precious, Maggie. Aw. Well, I'm glad you're home. You're going to be home safe. And Kathleen, hello. Finished is better than perfect. Yes, it is. I'm with you. I'm glad you're out there. Pat. So Pat said, I just finished my last corner unit yesterday. She says, I'm now in the process of putting it all together. I'm using a 1-inch strip on the front of the block and a 1 3/4 inch strip folded wrong sides together and pressed like a binding on the back of the block. She's posted a video link here showing the method. And she says, I'm doing my strips in reverse and hand stitching my folded strip on the back side inside of top stitching it. Oh, instead of top stitching it. Perfect. It takes me longer to decide how to quilt each block than it does to sew the row together. Have fun tonight. That's funny. Let me see if I can open this video. Nope, it's not letting me. So I will post it on the Simply Colorful page. Thank you, Pat. And I want to get to, oh, BJ, if you're out there, hello. Shout out to you. BJ has moved temporarily, maybe, from Yellowstone to San Diego area. And thank you for letting me know and know exactly where you are. I'm so glad that you're feeling better. And I wish I could say I'd put the wool in the mail. I have not yet, BJ, but I do plan to. So I think some applique, and you said, so BJ's going to be doing some applique with Sue Spargo and Rebecca Smith. Okay, so where is... Oh, Anne. Anne from last week sent this. This is lovely. Look at this fussy cut. What is that? Grandmother's garden? She says, it's great to see you. It's great to know you're out there, Anne. So pleased to be up and catch you live. That was on February 22nd. So maybe you're awake. If not, I hope you're sleeping well. She says, I'm busy trying to catch up with my Hexie swaps this month. Not had a huge time to craft this month as my daughter's been in and out of the hospital. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. She says, we're heading back on Tuesday and we won't be home until she has the baby. So not at all sure how long we'll be at the hospital, but better safe than sorry, as they want her close to neurological care if she needs it. Yep. Hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Love and quilty hugs, Anne. You too, and thanks for sharing that picture. Okay. So let's go. I wanted to, okay. Where is Karen's? Maybe she's sending it to the, oh, Aunt Jane. Hi, Aunt Jane. She sent for the Vermont visit where to pick her up. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Come on, Karen. We have things to sew. Okay, here we go. Karen has done 3 Dear Janes, and look at this. She's doing them in a black background. Good job. I love those with batiks. Those are beautiful. She titles this email, Un, deux, trois. Great. Okay. Let's make sure that you're seeing the right things. Okay. Oh, I love it when you all comment. Okay. Whoa, don't like that. Becca and Sue are out there. Brenda. Hi, Brenda Bixler. Welcome. So glad you're joining us. Oh, and Annie started hers in June. Okay, I'll let you guys talk amongst yourselves. I will sew, but I'm so glad you're doing that. Okay, now, see here in the corner of this F, see how I'm supposed to cut out little pieces of D and E? Something like that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take big pieces of white. Again, I'll use more white fabric than I would if I did it the other way. And I'm just going to sew pieces on it, and then I will square it off. But, am I doing this right? No, I'm not. So, but it will still work. I still have to do white on each side of these. I'll show you. Oh, look at this. What? I think this might be a different machine. What do you think? I think my mother is stunned. For the record, I was thinking of this, and if anyone out there wants to chime in and confirm that I have been thinking about this for a while, feel free. I went up to Nashua Sew and Vac. And Bob and I went up, actually. Can you see this? I don't know if you can see this. I bet I need to move it over. Sorry, Facebook. Oh, it's so heavy. I can't move it. Okay, I think you can see it. Anywho. I love it. It is the B570 Bernina Quilter's Edition. And so far, so good. I'm just learning it, really. Like, I'm using Aurifil thread, and I went, in order for it to figure out the tension, I told it what size needle I was using with the thread. So I had to go online and make sure that I was using 80-12 needles for the Aurifil Mako 502. And then the machine sets the tension accordingly. The best part is that I can cut the thread without having to do anything with my hands. What's that for magic? Okay. So what I'm going to do is put those all aside for a minute, and I'm going to do the same thing on the white pieces. Kaleidoscope. Yep, that wasn't very thoughtful. Okay. There's a way apparently to tell it how long each seam will be, and then have it automatically put the back and forth stitch. But I haven't figured out how to do that yet. But I will. So, something else I wanted to share with everyone is, speaking of Dear Jane, is anyone familiar with the Vermont book called Plain and Fancy? I think I may have shown it to you here before. Dear Jane, the quilt, the original quilt, was made in Vermont, and by Jane Stickle. And the quilt was also published not only in Brenda's book, but also in the Plain and Fancy book, a book of Vermont quilts. And if you remember, you might remember that my grandmother had another quilt that was in that book from Vermont, from the 1860s, 70s or so, right around the Civil War era. And I spent the week, not really a lot of time, but so, and that quilt has been gifted to me by my aunts and by my grandmother and by mom and dad. Anyway, I have this quilt in my closet in an acid-free box and paper. And I think that there might be a better place to put it, to preserve it. It was actually done by Jane Eliza Dewey, who is the cousin of George Dewey, who was the admiral at Appomattox, I think. And my Aunt Bonnie has written up beautifully more detail about the quilt. Anyway, stay tuned. I will be sharing more about that in the coming weeks. But the reason I bring it up is, if anyone here has ever had any success placing a quilt in a museum, donating, I'd love to hear how it went. If you have any tips. So far, I can tell you that the museums are interested. And the quilt was appraised in the 80s for $1,500. But I think I have no idea what the value is. Anyway, that was kind of fun. We'll explore it. Maybe Antiques Roadshow will come by and I'll go on that. Just what I need, right? But I'm experienced in front of the camera. I wonder if my sister's out there. It's awfully quiet. Oh, Sue says you have your threaded horizontally today. I sure do. I have learned a lot about threading this. I was threading it wrong, incorrectly, and that was really goofing up my tension. So thank you. I did. I tried it, and I put this little spongy disc, and I have the thread going directly here, and it's much better. Okay, now let's see if this is going to work. Okay, that is going to work. There's one. What else is going on? So it's cold here in New England. Wendy and Allie are down under, probably enjoying some nice weather. Oh, I saw Kathy. Oh boy, I just goofed there. It might still work. I saw Kathy at the garage today, the car garage. She was also getting her car inspected, as was I. So Kathy, if you're out there, and she said that she tuned in last week, so I wanted to say hi. I love it. I hope you're getting out your project or your magazine or whatever you feel like working on. Oh, you can't really see that, can you? Sorry about that. Okay. There's that. This is an unorthodox approach. 3, 4. Okay. So, see, instead of cutting all these little things, I've just put pieces like that. That we will trim off. Okay, so there's that. Now we're halfway done doing the other pieces with the white. So let's get some more white. This we can definitely use. There we go. Okay. Oops. Oh, so I need to tell you about the dual feed of this machine. Karen, my sister, asked last night if this B570QE had bigger feet. And the answer is yes, if you want to use them. And they're bigger when you use the dual feed, and I'll show you what I mean. Right now I'm not using dual feed, and so the foot that I have on here could work on any of the Berninas. Okay. So, you know, Bernina is so easy to remove, take the feet off. This with the single shank is it's a patchwork foot. It's 97. I could use this in my old Bernina anywhere. And it only uses the two feed dogs on the bottom to go on each of these. If you use the dual feed, you use a shank like this that has double bars coming down, and you actually are going to use, and it has a place to carry the dual feed top part. And then as a result, you end up using 3 of the feed dogs. And I'll show you what I mean. So here, I'm going to put this back in. And I know on Facebook Live, I'm sorry, I don't think you're able to see this. Actually, let me just show you. So can you see this? This is the traditional, and I'm only just learning this, but my sister asked, is the foot bigger? And it is on this 570. And it has the two prong foot, but you still lock it in on the top like that. Okay, anyway. You lock in that top, and then on the back here is a dual feed foot that just locked in. Now, what I have to do is go back here, and I have to tell it which foot I have on it. So this one is a 1D. So you go way up to the top. D. Okay, so it said good. We're good to go. Okay. Let's try something. Where did I put? Huh. Well, let's just try a scrap piece. Don't you hate when you I don't want to ruin any of these fabrics, but. Okay, so let's see if this works. Oh, it moves beautifully. It just inches the fabric along beautifully. In fact, I'm going to keep this foot on. Got a nice stitch. Okay, now, where did I put the other pieces? I got so excited to tell you about that big foot. Oh, they're back here. Okay. That. this. I want to cut off the wrong thing. Okay, so that will go there. This one will go there. How come I'm only finding 3 of these? One will go there. It's a lopsided kaleidoscope. Found it. It was underneath my machine. Okay. So there we go. Now that looks like a mess, right? Well, Ronald Reagan would say, well, it still is a mess, but I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to take my white and put it on the corners before I then trim up all of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wedges. And then we're going to sew the 8 wedges together. Throw those away. Who needs patterns? Okay. And how I'm going to do this is I'm going to cut 2 squares and then cut the squares in half. I really, by Friday night, this is the kind of sewing I do, is pretty ad hoc. Okay, so now what I want to do is bring it over to one of these. And I'm going to use a pin, and I'm going to line it up to the crossroad of my kaleidoscope point. Actually, no, I'm not even going to worry about that. Well, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am. Okay, let's see. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to put those aside just for now. And get my, okay, so I'm lining up the straight line that's going from point to point, and I'm adding 1/4 of an inch here. And then I'm sewing, and then I'm cutting it so that then I'll take this scrap and I'll sew it 1/4 of an inch. Ooh. Even though I love this foot, it doesn't have the 1/4 of an inch. I might have to talk my mother into stopping at the store. Oh, look at this. The machine told me I switched my foot, but I didn't tell the computer. Okay, so I top that. I go to my feet. Probably a better way to do this. Okay, 97. There we go. Okay. Is this as clear as mud what I'm doing? I hope it works. Oops. 2. Okay, now do this one. Yep. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's just put that like that for now. Let's do these 3. One more. So if you're out there and you're doing Dear Jane, post a picture to Simply Colorful on the Facebook page. I'd love to see it. And I know others would. How is everyone doing out there? Okay, whoops. We're getting closer to sewing our kaleidoscope together. Okay. So now we have these 4 for the corners. And what I want to do is I want to follow this line straight out with my ruler. Now look at that. I may have goofed. I did goof. Look at that. It's not going to go out far enough. If I go like that. Okay, that one should work, but this one will not. So it's okay. So we're just going to undo that. Like I say. Kathleen, what do we say? Done is better than perfect? Yikes. This is pretty bad. But you know what? We're doing it. It's a Friday night, and we could be slouched on the couch. Oops. But instead, we're accomplishing something, and we're doing something we love. Like I've said many times, I would be doing this anyway. I just clipped this whole piece, so I have to take the whole piece off because I'm using an axe. This is definitely not the right tool for this. Okay. All right, let's just get ourselves another piece. Oh, I also wanted to show you, remember the charm squares I was making last week? I've made some good progress on that. Okay. Okay. So there's a bigger piece. Now we go back here. I'm going to iron it. Oh, Sandra, if you're out there, isn't this always the way? Okay. All right, take two. This one I'm just going to sew a little bit extra on it. Okay, so 1, 2, that should work. Now I have to fix this one. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We added some more onto there, and now okay, so I have to get rid of the extra thread. There we go. Okay. All right, so we fixed that one, so we can cut that right along. And this one. That one I think we're going to get away with. Okay, so now, this is so bad. Who's out there? Oh, I'm so glad you guys are talking. Hi, Jeanette in Australia. Hello, down under. Okay, now one by one, and again, this one's going to be very close. So I'm going to use that. Use that. There's one. I'll do it around like this. There's another one. See that kaleidoscope? It's coming together. There we go. There's yet another. And there's another. Okay. So now that's the corners there. How are we doing here? Okay. So all I have to do now is make these also wedges, and then we will sew them together. Dun dun! I wish I had news, but you know, it's kind of the beginning of March. We don't have a whole lot going on. I've already been somewhere warm back in December. Who's going on a trip? Now's the time to go somewhere nice and warm. That, one more here. Okay, so now we have the pieces of our kaleidoscope. And I'm going to put all doubles, twos together. And we'll put this two together. These two. Okay. Cut these in half. I mean, cut them apart. Yikes. You see this? Sort of. Well, I need you to see. There's that. Doesn't that look like just a hodgepodge of things? Oh, and I should be ironing them all the same way, so I just goofed. I'm going to iron them all toward the dark, and we'll try to spin our seams. There. And then there. Okay. So that's looking more kaleidoscope-like. Now let's put this together. Okay, we're getting there. Be nice if I could. Okay, they're all going that way. Let's see what this is going to look like. They're all going that way, all going that way. Okay, this is good. We might spin our seams. And this might be taking me the whole hour. I have no idea what time it is. Oh, it's time to quit. Hang on. We're almost done. Thank you for anyone who's still sticking with me. Sorry, I got in the flow. I got in the zone. This may be a little rounded, but Jean taught me if I spray it with water, it will, what does she say? The B cup will go down to, or the D cup will go to a B, something like that. Hey, where's my dual feed? Okay, now, what we want to do is try to get these seams to swirl. And then we'll square it up and then we'll be done. So I know I didn't see a lot of you. If you're out there, hi. I have nothing more to say. I hope you do something creative this weekend. Or visit family. Mom and I are going up to Vermont tomorrow. We're going to try and leave before the storm hits here. We're going to chase the storm, chase away from the snow. Okay, not great, but not bad. So now, see this? This is where this Dear Jane square is really useful, because you put it right in the center of this. And with luck, that is going to be scant. So see how it's a little bit bigger here and here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it bigger and make that 1/2 inch border that we have to put on these slightly smaller. So what I mean by that is I'm going to leave 1/4 inch seam allowance. Around the blocks. Oh, see how if I did that, I'd cut it all off? So I'm going to go way out here. It'll still look fine in Dear Jane as long as I square up my blocks before I sew them together in the rows, right? Right, Sue? Right, Pat? Oh, and Sue and Pat, thank you for inspiring us to keep going. And if anyone out there is thinking of starting a Dear Jane, definitely do it. It's not a race. You don't have to, well, I guess maybe in some cases it is a race. But definitely go for it, because look at what you can make. That was pretty fun. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. As always, if you haven't, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Simply Colorful. Shameless plug. Make sure you like the Facebook page, and have a great weekend and next week. And I'll see you next Friday night right here at 8 p.m. Eastern. Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining me.